For 7 long years, I saved every single penny to buy the historic Victorian house on Elm Street. It was not just a home to me. It was my sanctuary and the ultimate symbol that I had survived my narcissistic family. On the day of the final auction, my own sister and parents showed up and outbid me by $10,000 using money they stole from my late grandmother's estate. They stood on the porch with smug grins on their faces, telling me I could visit them if I behaved. I simply smiled and said congrats. What they did not know was that I had spent months researching the property records before placing my bid. I knew a devastating legal secret about the zoning permits and the historical preservation deed attached to that house. A secret that meant their arrogance was about to cost them every penny they owned. Growing up in my family meant existing in the shadow of my younger sister, Chloe. My parents treated Chloe like royalty while treating me like an unwanted employee. When I got my first job at 16, my father demanded I pay rent while Chloe received a brand new car for simply passing high school. I learned early on to keep my finances completely secret. I worked 2 jobs throughout college, sacrificed vacations, and built a successful career as a corporate compliance analyst. My long-term goal was singular. I wanted to buy the old Victorian mansion on the edge of town. It had been abandoned for years and needed substantial restoration, but it possessed magnificent architectural bones. 6 months ago, the bank finally put the Victorian up for auction. I spent weeks inspecting the foundation, checking the plumbing, and doing deep legal research. At the city registry, during my research at the county clerk office, I stumbled upon an incredible legal anomaly embedded within the property deed. The original owner had established a binding historical conservation easement in 1922. The easement stated that any owner who purchased the home was legally required to restore the exterior using period-accurate materials within 90 days of purchase or face automatic city seizure without refund. Furthermore, the property carried a massive back tax lien that was hidden under a secondary municipal filing, which the seller was not legally obligated to disclose unless specifically requested by the buyer. I kept this information entirely to myself. I secured a pre-approved loan and prepared for auction day. However, my mother secretly went through my mail 2 days before the sale and found my loan documents. Instead of being proud, my family saw an opportunity to humiliate me. Chloe had always wanted a grand house to post on social media to pretend she was wealthy. On the day of the auction, I placed my maximum bid of $400,000. Just as the auctioneer was about to strike the gavel, my father shouted out $410,000. Chloe cheered hysterically. They had pooled their savings and used Chloe Trust Fund to snatch the house right out from under me. After the auction ended, my family walked over to me with arrogant smirks. My sister laughed in my face and told me that maybe if I worked harder, I could afford a house half as nice as hers. My mother chimed in saying Chloe deserved a grand home more than I did because she was planning to start a family. They laughed and told me I was welcome to visit on holidays if I cleaned up after myself. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I simply looked my sister in the eye, smiled calmly, and said, "Congrats." I turned around and walked away, knowing that their greed had just triggered their financial downfall. 3 days after closing, my father and sister moved massive construction crews onto the property to tear down the historic wraparound porch and install modern plastic siding. They wanted to flip the house quickly for a profit. That was the moment I executed my plan. I placed a call directly to the city Historical Preservation Board and the Municipal Tax Enforcement Bureau. I provided them with the exact deed registry numbers highlighting the binding conservation easement and the unpaid tax liens that my family had completely failed to research before bidding. The very next morning, city inspectors arrived at the property accompanied by police officers. They issued an immediate cease and desist order for the unauthorized demolition of a protected landmark. When my father tried to argue, the chief inspector handed him an official notice demanding immediate payment of $250,000 in accrued historic back taxes plus interest. Because my family had bought the home at a judicial auction without doing title research, they were legally responsible for every single penny of the debt. When my father went to the bank to take out a mortgage against the home to pay the tax bill, the bank denied him instantly due to the active legal violations. Within 60 days, the city placed an official foreclosure levy on the Victorian house. My family tried to sell their personal assets to cover the debt, but Chloe had already spent her remaining savings on expensive furniture and designer decorations for a house she did not truly own. Unable to pay the $250,000 tax lien or the legal fines for destroying historical property, the city officially seized the Victorian house and put it back up for public tax auction. This time, the property carried a clear public warning about the restoration requirements, which scared away all other buyers. I attended the second auction alone. Because the tax debt had cleared through the municipal seizure, I bid a mere $150,000. With no other bidders present, the gavel dropped, and the house was officially mine at less than half of my original budget. My family was left completely ruined. They lost the $410,000 they spent at the first auction and were forced to move into a cramped two-bedroom apartment. Chloe had to take a job at a retail store to help pay off the lingering municipal court fines. My mother called me weeping, begging me to let them live in the guest house. I reminded her of what she told me on auction day. I told her that if she worked hard, maybe one day she could afford a place of her own. Today, the Victorian house is fully restored to its original beauty and stands as a daily reminder that arrogance and malice will always destroy themselves. Greed always blinds people to the trap they are setting for themselves. My family thought they were taking away my dream, but their need to humiliate me only exposed their own ignorance. They spent over $400,000 just to buy themselves total financial ruin, while I walked away with the house of my dreams at a fraction of the cost. Always let your enemies celebrate their temporary victory in silence, because when you play the long game, their own arrogance will do all the heavy lifting for you.